Hello chess friends! In this lesson today we will finish with domination topic. If you missed to see my first lesson about domination, take a look information about that in the right upper corner. In this position here we see that black is up in material, but this is interesting example because if white is on the move, then black's queen will be dominated. The best move for white is great move bishop d6. This move is attacking the queen, and now if queen captures the bishop, then of course knight f7, knight fork, and let's see now how white easily wins this endgame, attacking the pawn, and after a4 just approaching closer with the king in the center of the board, and now if king d5, of course knight b6 fork, winning the pawn, and the game is easily winning for white. Or if, for example, this queen, which doesn't have so many available moves, plays queen e3, queen cannot play wherever in this position, because if queen, for example, goes to h4, there is bishop e5 checkmate threat. That's why there are only three possible moves: queen captures on d6, queen e3, and queen g7. If queen e3, then again bishop e5, great move, and after queen takes, knight f7 check, again knight captures the queen, knight c4, and now king approaches closer in the center, and again if king d5, knight b6, otherwise the c-pawn will easily promote. That is why the best move for black, but the move which also loses the game, is queen to g7. And after bishop e5, now black does not need to capture the bishop, because then knight f7 and we have the same position as previous. Black has now an extra tempo to advance his pawn. This is also win for white, but a little bit more longer and complicated. So bishop g7, king g7, knight f5 check, king f6, knight d4, a3, and now knight b3. From b3 square, knight controls promotion, a1 square, and after king e5, king e2, king e4, simply king d2, h5, c4, and if now, let's say a2, then just king c3, king f4, c5, if king e5, just king b2, winning a2 pawn, and it is completely lost. And if, for example, king goes to g3 to capture g2 pawn and to try to promote a pawn, he is much slower. We see easily that white will promote much faster, and white has very easy win in this position. So that is what will happen if after c4 move black advances the pawn up to a2. If he plays king f4, then just king c3, king g3, c5, king g2, and now we will see this variation, what is going on when both sides advances to promote. Simply now, no matter that black's pawn is very close to promotion to h2, let's see how easily white wins the game. The point is that white will create a sort of a stalemate in this position, because now king must go into the corner, but it is not a stalemate because there is the pawn on a3. And then white easily wins by playing king f2, queen f2, and after a2, queen f1 checkmate. So in this example, we have seen how black's queen is dominated by bishop and the knight. This is very interesting example in which white has rook and the bishop and the pawn for the queen, which is mathematically speaking almost equal material. But black has a big problem because his king is placed in the middle of the board. And now it looks like that bishop g4 is a good move for white, but that is not the best move, because after queen f7 there is no any clear way how white could win this game, and black will not lose this position now. But great move which white has in the starting position is rook to f5. Rook to f5. Now black has specific problem. If he captures this rook with a king, then bishop g4 check, winning the queen and easily winning endgame. If, for example, after rook f5 he doesn't capture the rook at all, and if he plays, let's say, something like queen e7, Brilliant idea of rook f5 move is that it will now cut black's king along 5th rank and f-file, and bishop c2 is great checkmating picture. So after rook f5, queen has to capture, and now we have bishop c2, and after capturing the queen, we have easily winning pawn endgame, because this pawn on h3 will be used as a decoy, and white will win the d6 pawn, and then both of the remaining pawns on the queen side, and easily win this pawn endgame. In this position, we see the endgame queen and the knight versus queen, and normally queen and the knight are not strong enough to win the game against the queen. But in this position, black king is not safe because it is placed in the corner, and there is a disadvantage that black has this pawn on h6. So now white will use the pattern of approaching closer with the queen to f6 square in a forced way, simply by using this maneuver which is presented on the screen. So after queen a1 check, king h7, queen b2 check, b1 check, please take a note that queen can never cover the check with queen g6 because there is always knight fork, knight f8. So black can only play king moves while queen approaches closer to f6 square. No chance to make any other move, all is forced. And now after queen f6, king h7, of course knight f8 forces black's queen to capture the knight, and white wins this position. And this is a very nice example for the end of this lesson. Normally, black would be able to sacrifice his rook for white bishop, which will leave a drawn position, rook versus two knights. If black decides to sacrifice rook for a knight, that sacrificing would not be good because bishop and the knight are able to checkmate. But if black rook sacrifices for the bishop, then it will leave two knights which were not able to checkmate, and the game will end as a draw. But in this example, there is no any way for black to do that because black rook is dominated. It is now white on the move, and the best move for white in this position is knight d2 attacking the rook. Look now how rook has a lots of available legal moves on e-file and the 4th rank, but all of those moves will either lose the rook immediately because the square is controlled, like for example e8, e6, c4, a4, and e3, e2, and the e1 squares. Actually not e3, only e2 and e1. But for other squares like e3, d4, e7 and b4, there is immediate fork and the rook will be lost, and bishop and the knight are enough to checkmate. So the only available move is rook e5. So let's see, if rook e3 we have knight d5. If rook d4 we have knight e6. If rook b4 we have knight d5. So the only available move is rook to e5. And next excellent move for white is knight c4. Again we attack the rook, and now rook has completely available 5th rank and e-file. And we see that all the squares beside e4 or f5 are now controlled, will capture the rook immediately, or we will have immediate knight fork. If rook goes to f5, then knight d6, rook e5 is the only move, and now fantastic, unbelievable move which creates complete zugzwang now for black is bishop f3. Look now, if king goes to g5, which is the only available move, there is knight f7 fork. And if we want to move the rook, the only move is rook a5, and after knight e6 check, king must go to e5, there is no other square, and knight c4 wins the rook. Another option we said here that beside f5 is e4 square, but then all the same. Knight d6, and after rook e5, again bishop f3. completely hopeless position for black rook. Simply he's not able to sacrifice the rook for bishop at all. And after rook a5, knight e6, king e5, and knight c4. So in this example we have seen how rook was completely dominated by these three white's minor pieces. That will be all for this video chess lesson. If you want to see some specific content in my video chess lessons, please place the comment below my video on YouTube. Take a look at the suggested videos and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel.